Today, we have an incredible conversation lined up just for you. One that's going to challenge the way you think about money, responsibility, and the future of work.
That's right. We're sitting down with Damion Lupo, entrepreneur, investor, and creator of the Millionaire Action Plan, to talk about what it really takes to build financial independence in a world that's rapidly changing.
We dive deep into personal responsibility, resilience, and how the way we parent today is shaping the next generation's ability to face adversity.
And why, with AI and automation transforming the job market, we're discussing why now, more than ever, you need to take control of your financial future and develop the skills to thrive.
If you're tired of feeling stuck in the system and ready to build a life on your own terms, this episode is for you. We're the Five Guys. Let's get into it.
So, Damion, could you tell me a little bit about your money journey? Where did it all begin? I know a little bit about your history, but I'd love to hear it first-person knowledge.
The first thing I think about is when I was a kid being told that we were broke and we didn't have any money, and and we all have these money beliefs that primarily came from our parents and our upbringing, and then they got hardwired. And I heard this message: hey, here's how much money I make from my dad. Here's how much I make. Here's how much we spend on the mortgage and the car payment. And that's not even for food. How am I supposed to give you anything? And I'm still trying to figure out food. So the message I got was scarcity. It was that I was a burden. And so by the time I was 11, 12 years old, I was out doing side jobs to make money to buy groceries. I mean, that's kind of a twisted, effed up thing as a kid. But I was thinking, okay, I got to go create it. So it really hardwired this idea that I'm responsible, that nobody, even my parents, which is not, I don't think, a very healthy thing. I would say, I'm not condoning this. Hey, parents, go tell your kids there's no money and they should go find a way to buy groceries. But that's what I ended up working from. That was my driving force. So I went out and I went out and figured it out. And whether it was shoveling driveways or roofs or starting a business selling Nintendo, which is a video game for those that don't know what that is. But I was basically creating ways to have prosperity, and primarily that was out of a feeling of I'm a burden and there's not enough. And so I just countered it. I didn't say, okay, I'll just shrivel up and die. And as an entrepreneur, not really knowing that at the time, I think that's what we naturally do. We just go, okay, here's the problem. I mean, I see a problem. I'm going to go solve it. Usually I'm going to build a business around it. But it was this idea when I was told that, it didn't resonate. Like something was fundamentally flawed. And I said, all right, you know what? I'm going to go fix the problem. I don't really buy into problems are just how it is. I can't help but to solve them. And that was what really drove me to continue to build things, to create things. I don't like being told no. And I will not accept somebody telling me there's a certain limited amount of anything. Malthusian economics doesn't work with me. Limited supply, not going to do it. I always think, how do we create more? What's this infinite abundance and prosperity? And that's what's driven everything my entire life. So it doesn't matter how many times I fail, fall, flop, lose money, go homeless. It's like, all right, got it. Learned the lesson, moving on.
Where do you think that drive comes from, that ability to see a problem and say, I'm going to face it rather than I'm going to hide away from it? I feel nowadays, we were just talking before the podcast about our kind of concerns with the state of the world, that there's a lot of people who's going to see a problem and they're going to say like, oh, well, no, I'm just a victim. It's going to happen to me. I can't do anything about that. So where did you come with that? Because that's something that I don't feel is hardwired into people. It's something that it's learned from something, or maybe people learn the helplessness. I'm not sure what's going on there.
I think there is a lot of learned helplessness. What we see in general, if we look around and just kind of pay attention, you see a lot of people coddling and creating very weak kids. In general, you see 20-somethings that are still living with their parents until they're 30. They don't really have skills. They've always been given a trophy. Like there's a lot of things that are going on in society that are creating very weak people. And they might be good at memorizing things. They might have certain philosophies that they've mastered. They probably know Russian literature better than I do. But in general, they're not. It's dangerous because we're creating a weak generation, or maybe generations. When I think back to some of these memes I've seen about the 80s kids when I was growing up. I was born in the late 70s. And the 80s kids, I mean, we literally disappeared, and then we showed back up after dark, and we drank out of the hose, and all these things happened, and nobody died. Like, and now it's like everybody's afraid of so many things. Part of that is a reflection of how much media is being hit And media's job is to make us pay attention. So media says, look at all this bad stuff. And then people go, oh my God, there's so much bad stuff. And then it basically bakes in a fear for parents, which makes them think, I need to protect my kids and make it easier. They don't want their kids to feel bad. And this is why a lot of times, almost always, you have one generation makes the money and the next generation loses the money. And by the third generation, almost never is it continuous. And it's because there's a different way of looking at life when you're struggling. And I think taking that away from anybody, which is what most parents are doing, quite frankly, they're trying to help their kids avoid pain. I think it's a massive mistake. Now, you want to protect your kids from dying, but you know what? Kids break legs. They get hurt. They make mistakes. They fail tests. Like, all that stuff is normal and it's really helpful. But I see society trying to prevent this stuff. It's why everybody wants to, or not everybody, but a lot of people want to give everybody, or had been giving everybody, a trophy. We don't want them to feel bad. Stop keeping score. Wake up, guys. That's not how the world works. The score is how you navigate through things. And unless you're just a Marxist and you want to go and you want to have everybody equal, which I don't think, we've proven that doesn't work. But that's, I think there's a misguided philosophy for a lot of people creating very weak kids. And you're not doing any, I mean, the people that are doing that are not doing any favors. I'm thankful that I got basically beaten. I mean, intellectually and spiritually, there was a bit of a beating, and it wasn't very much fun, but I was able to go out and, I mean, I had my own insurance agency by the time I was 19 years old. And most of the 19-year-olds are trying to figure out, what is going to get a little bit twisted there, but they're trying to figure out anything of substance, and they have no idea who they are. They're not out there thinking about struggling or solving problems. They're kind of just going, well, I guess I'll go figure it out, go to college for 25 years and live off of mom and dad and the system. That's not going to be sustainable. The whole world is aggressively working in a certain direction. And with things like AI and robotics accelerating, people are going to get run over. And so I'm really glad for if you will, the trauma around thinking about money and about evolving through that stuff. I think it's important that everybody does that. And I think parents are making a mistake by not letting their kids struggle. I think that's how you build character.
Yeah, I think it comes down to a misunderstanding of what love is, right? Like, I love my children, right? And if I love my child, then that means in a twisted way, you want them to suffer. You want them to grow. You want them to go through those hard things, because if you believe that love is hiding your kid away in their room so that they can't get hurt, feeding them pancakes underneath the door and coddling them, well, at some point, when they get out into the real world and they get kicked in the ass for the first time, I'd rather get kicked in the ass as a 4-year-old or a 5-year-old and realize that, oh, I can fail and get back up, than be told that, the life or the world, the universe, the cosmos is made for me and me alone. And the moment that I come up against my first wall, you crumble. And now that's how we see that. I used to work in 4 companies, 4 people. And I see that in like the HR offices of like, oh, well, this person can't come to work today because they're sad. And it's like, well, why are they sad? Well, because of something. And like, I understand people die. Like, I've had death, and I understand that, and I've gone to work the next day. And I'm not saying that's healthy. There's a lot of things that, like, looking back, I probably should have taken more time. And there's a point where like you need to just kind of get over it. And like, life isn't fair, but the world doesn't care. So keep moving.
I've had that experience a number of times where people are, mental health is a real thing, and you can be pretty twisted. And I agree that it's important to address and not just bury. But I've seen people going down a path like you're talking about, and they say, I can't handle it. I'm looking at them going, you're in deep shit with the world, because the world doesn't care. And if you can't handle adversity, if you can't handle things that, death happens, trauma happens, like all these things. And just saying, well, I need to unplug from existing in society. Ultimately, that's not sustainable. And we're going to have to get tougher. I mean, it's like, there's a guy that's in Arizona, like we are, by the name of Larry Winget. They call him the pit bull of personal development, bald guy. He used to endorse Kia or Hyundai or something. But he has all these books like Shut Up, Stop Whining, Get a Life. Your life is your own damn fault. And I love his message. It's like, look, it's up to you. Go do it. And it's this philosophy that it's not you, it's somebody else, which has been pounded into us by a lot of people, in the political space and things. The reality is, it is up to you. Like, you need to go do it. Doesn't mean you're going to do it all by yourself, but it does mean that it's up to you to take that step and get through the stuff. It's not just about saying, I'm going to tuck it down and move on and ignore it, because that's how things blow up on people, because they don't go through it. But I think the problem I see is people aren't taking responsibility for their lives. They're not saying, okay, this is my life. I need to do the work. Nobody seems to, and when I say nobody, the vast majority of people don't want to do the work. I get excited about falling on my face or going through things. And like, I go to a therapist, I'm like, I am here to work. And they go, all right, you know what? This is what I never hear. People show up and they're like, hey, can you coddle me like my parents used to do? I want to talk to you for an hour a week and feel better about myself. I go to the therapist. I'm like, all right, let's unpack it. Let's dig down. Let's pull it apart. Let's twist it, squeeze it. Let's break it. Whatever we got to do, I will do the work. I'll show up for an hour and I'll spend the next 20 hours this week and come back to you with a whole bunch more work done. That's what people need to do when they go to work these days, whether it's on their own business or they're going to work for somebody else. I see them checking in and checking out, and I don't see them working on themselves after. Like Jim Rohn used to say, look, those 40 hours you're working, man, that's on your lifestyle. Everything else is on your legacy. It's on your wealth. It's like, that's where you're growing. And people don't realize. They think, oh, well, how little can I work? Well, that's not how it works. And ultimately, sadly, most people are going to get crushed by the coming technological wave. And now is the time to do something about it. Now is the time to retool and start figuring out how you use ChatGPT and how you use these tools, because you're going to become irrelevant if you're doing manual things. And unfortunately, that's what I see. I see a lot of people, including my own companies, where people aren't stepping up. They're just milking the tit nonstop. I'm like, man, that thing's going to go dry.
Yeah, and they just hope that when it does go dry, somebody else is going to come and fix it. Someone else is going to come and save the problem. Let's talk a little bit about that, about the coming AI boom, because I agree with you. We're coming into hard times. Like it's going to be hard, and this has been a problem that has been exacerbated for the last 30 or 40 years of kicking the can down the road. Socioeconomically, when it comes to our monetary systems of just let's inflate. Let's not let people fail. Let's not people fail. Now we're getting to the point that it's all coming to a head. That with the advent of artificial intelligence being able to go after not just truck drivers. I mean, shoot, it looks like it's not even going to go after truck drivers. It's going to go after everybody else, all the creative arts, accountants, white collar, blue collar, everyone's about to be taken out pretty much simultaneously. Because if you go out right now, you look at AI, like ChatGPT 4.5 just released, and it is really, really good. And that is the worst it will ever be. It will only get better from here. And the way that ChatGPT came out a year ago. Like we were invented to it a year ago. Now DeepSeek, it's getting better and better so much quicker. Where do people go from here? Do they just sit underneath the couch and hide like people are doing? What do you think the step is to try to get out ahead of something that is going to develop faster than you, no matter how smart you are?
That's the first thing we have to. I look at things and I'm trying to keep up, and I'm actually actively engaging, and I'm reading and I'm studying, and I'm like, I don't even feel like I'm not even keeping up. Like it's going faster than I can evolve, and the humans have evolved for thousands and millions of years linearly. Biologically, we do things very straight. It's like it takes us 1,000 years to evolve. And so between our health with all the manufactured crap that our bodies are trying to figure out that's killing us, and just the technology, we're not equipped to evolve this fast, but it is happening. And so what do you do with that? I was talking to one of my partners recently, and we were talking about robotics, Optimus, and people framing houses. One of my companies, a major operation that's going to disrupt the framing and construction industry with frame tech, it employs a lot of people, and a lot of these people are going to have to evolve and retool, and that's part of what we're going to do. How do we put them in places where we can still use the humanity of them and keep them as part of this family, but not sit there and say we're going to keep our people doing manual jobs that a robot can do? The reality is all of the things you mentioned. I would challenge you or anybody else to try to tell me that 10 to 15 years from now, name one job, one thing that humans do now that creates value that a robot or AI will not be doing, whether it's being a doctor. I mean, who's going to want to have a doctor cut them or prescribe something with their limited knowledge? And I'm talking a doctor that's been doctoring for 30 years has very limited knowledge compared to the entire mass of every paper that's been written and everything that an AI can look into in a matter of a millisecond and bring all that. So whether it's accounting, it's governance, it's physical things, whether it's plumbing. So all these things, what do you do with that? You say, first off, it's changing. And so I'm not going to just put my head in the sand like an ostrich. Okay, that's the first thing, because most people are just like, oh, it'll be fine. What you don't realize is that our ability to see exponentially is virtually impossible because we have no way to do it. We think linearly. So exponential thinking requires you to say, okay, this is how technologies like video conferencing, where companies said, okay, we don't have the microprocessing power today. This is 20 years ago, but we know that because of Moore's law, microprocessing is doubling every 18 months. We can expect that. So in 5 to 8 years, we're going to have the speed to have video conferencing. Well, now we take this for granted, but 20 years ago, somebody had to say, we're going to build things and we're going to build a company around the idea that the technology, the speed is going to be there for us to produce this thing. And so you have to start asking yourself, what are those things that are impossible today that are going to be not only possible, but common in 3 to 5 years? Because that's how fast it's happening. So part of this is, how do you process that? One, you have to get around people that are thinking and talking about that. If you're around the people and you're doing football and wings on Friday and they're thinking linearly because they're thinking the next 5 is going to be like the last 5 years, you're going to get run over. And it's here's the scary part about it, because you always got to look at both sides. I think there's 3 sides of the coin. First off, the scary part. The scary part is people are going to go, oh God, I'm downsized and there's nobody to like employ me. And then they're going to look to the government, and then they're going to look to people to save them. And that's where you get really dangerous leaders that'll say, I'll save you. We don't need that. We need to be self-responsible. And the good news is there's going to be this golden era of prosperity, I believe, because of the AI, 80% likely, unless it kills us like Terminator. I believe, like Elon says, that's possible. But this 80%, all these things are going to be solved, whether it's medical issues or the ability to create things that humans have been doing, and then it frees up our time. So I think people have to start thinking. That's the solution, is thinking about it and then getting around people that are thinking into the future, not just thinking about the past on rinse and repeat. That's what most people do, because we want to have stability. We want to have certainty. It's one of our basic human needs, this consistency. And so people are resistant, but it doesn't matter if you want to be resistant, because the world's going to overtake you, and your cushy 6 or double 6-figure job is literally going to turn into a non-existent job, because artificial intelligence, like imagine coders that were making $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 a year. Now coding is being done by code, and it's changing to where they didn't reduce their income. It got eliminated, except for the ones that are able to evolve into a totally different space. So all the certifications people get doesn't matter, because code is actually more, it's faster and it's more precise than any human being. So we have to start asking these questions and acknowledge that, hey, tomorrow is going to look different than yesterday. And don't be mad about it. Just evolve and start thinking about it versus putting your head in the sand. That's where people are going to get into trouble. And you can see it. You see it now, and it's going to get worse because it's going to get faster.
Yeah, I agree with you. We're at a point, and there's an event horizon that I can't see beyond. And we're always at that event horizon, right? But at this time, with just the advent of AI, it's happening so much faster. For most of human history, if you took a human being and you put them in 100 years in the future, it'd be pretty much the same. They know what to do. I'm going to need to find food, find a mate, find housing. I'll be okay.
Right.
But you took someone from 100 years ago. Took someone from the 1925 during the Depression. You brought them today, put them in here. They wouldn't know how to operate. It'd be completely different. And I think if you took someone now and you move them 5 years into the future, they wouldn't know how to operate, just because of how fast this is coming. So I 100% agree with you in that people need to start to take action. They need to start doing something about it. They need to start to learn every single day, because if they hope that my cushy 6-figure job is going to be there for them in 5 years, 10 years, whatever, it's not going to be there. So my kind of thought process is everyone needs to learn how to become an entrepreneur, because there's probably not going to be a lot of big companies. There's probably going to be a very few very large companies. And then everyone else is going to be small micro companies that can basically make enough to support themselves. But having employees employing all these giant companies that we have now is probably not going to be the future.
I think that's true. And one of the things that I think about a lot, and it concerns me, is when I see an organization, some of my organizations, I see some of the people, and I'm trying desperately to get them to step up and evolve. And these are great people. I've got a lot of great people, but I don't see them pushing themselves and stretching themselves. And here's the problem. It's not that I say you're a bad person. I'm saying that our competition is going to step up and they're going to roll over us, and I'm going to have to it's going to go away, or I'm going to outsource or eliminate the people, because it doesn't work. Like the economics of business don't work because somebody else is doing more. It's called ephemeralization, doing more with less. And that's what you have to think about in terms of, we have to produce more with less people. And this idea that we have good people and that's going to be enough, it just simply is not, because the whole world is going to say it's more expensive. Everything's more expensive. The eggs are more expensive. All this stuff's more expensive. And that's a whole other thing with our monetary system. But it's a reality. Things are costing more today than they were 5 years ago. And it'll be more 5 years from now as we keep printing. So what do you do with that? You say, okay, well, we can't pay for these services. My companies are providing a service. People are saying, you need to give me that service for less because I can't afford my life. And so if my team is saying we need more money and I'm saying we got to charge less and give more, how does that work? It works because you use AI. I mean, that's how it's basically going to evolve, or you create more value. And the hack for people that are like, oh my God, am I going to lose my job? The hack is you got to create double, triple what you're producing. And it doesn't mean you're working 100 hours a week. It means you're working smarter. So instead of your 40 hours, you're working 50, and 10 of those, you're like, okay, I gotta start creating new tools. I gotta start figuring out how to prompt Chat GPT. I gotta understand this stuff and bring that value in. The tools allow you to create the value, but people are like, they're not engaging. They're doing the same linear crap, and then they're going to be pissed. Like, I don't know what to tell you. I'm trying, but I can't drag people. It's like dragging a horse. Like, if the horse doesn't want to drink, you can try to drag it, but good luck. Like, it's not going to go. And that's, it's people think it's ruthless about going and saying we've got to cut the fraud, the fat out of companies or government or whatever. The reality is it's not sustainable. It will, like, you're going to get run over by another country or another company or something. And so there is a window. I believe there's a window over the next few years where people can evolve. They can either create more value inside, be kind of an entrepreneur, or they can be an entrepreneur. But I think we're going to move past this. And I think this is probably about a 5-year window where between now and that 5-year window, about 2030 or so, we're going to have a space where it's like, this is really almost impossible to start because everything is being thought about with AI. And what's already there is a massive control of all these resources, robotics, AI, by giant conglomerates. And then you're going to get a war about people saying the oligarchs have too much. Well, there's an opportunity. So instead of bitching about it, go create something right now, evolve yourself. Like, there is an opportunity. I don't think that opportunity is going to last very long because we're going to get to a place where things are truly digitized and automated in such a profound way that we don't even know how to process or start anything because we're like, oh, we're only human. Like, that's kind of a crazy thought, but we're not going to be able to do the things like our synaptic nerves, like our brains are amazing, but there's a singularity event. You kind of touched on it. There's this event, this horizon. We're going towards that space where this Chat GPT is going to have the effective ability to think as if it's the entire world's brains all together. Like, we're going there. It's a matter of time and not very long where the computing power gets us to that place where we go past a human brain, and then we collectively all human brains, then we go past that. And maybe that's like Ray Kurzweil in the singularity, like we're talking about that event. What I do know is that that's going to displace and disrupt most of what we believe is human worth and work. And a lot of what we get in terms of our worth is through our work and our value we create. And people have to evolve or they're going to get run over. Like, if I'm going to say it 1,000 times because there's time to do something about it, but that time is not forever. It's probably not, it's probably less than 10 years. Like you said, 10 years from now, what the people that show up there between 10 years from now and today, 2035, it's going to be a different world. You're like, what? I don't understand how to operate. You displace somebody. It's not 100 years anymore. It's a decade. It's 10 times faster at least.
Yeah, it's crazy. So what I want our listeners to hear from that is not to take that and be like, oh my God, there's nothing I can do about it. I need to hide underneath I need to hide in the closet. What you need to do is you need to go out there. You need to figure something out. And the nice thing about AI, if you want to get better, if you want to evolve, use AI. Use the thing that's coming after you to make you better. I mean, I talk to ChatGPT 4 all day. Like, it's pretty constant. Like, it's one of my best friends right now. And that's kind of sad to say that like an AI is my best friend, but you can tell it exactly how it needs you to respond. Like, I need you to be enthusiastic, but I need you to challenge me. You can tell it exactly what you need from it. You can have some of the best conversations that you possibly can with an AI device to make you better so that it doesn't eventually beat you. You could be up front with it and be like, hey, I'm afraid that you're going to take my job. How can I beat you? And it will try to help you because unlike us, it's not afraid of you taking its job. Like, it doesn't have those biological evolutionary drives that we do where we fear competition because it's completely different than us. So I like to move Damion on to when we're talking about this, we talked a lot about values, about changing everything. I know that things are changing, but true prosperity, how would you think that someone can achieve wealth without sacrificing their values? Because I can hear a lot of people saying, like, if AI is coming, then I need to start doing something. And when some people start doing things quickly, values go out the window, and now we start making bad decisions that might help us on the short term, but on the long term are quite detrimental.
I think when values get compromised, typically it's because somebody wants to feel a certain way short term. and they're not willing to be patient long term. I mean, that's usually what, if you boil anything down, it's I don't want to experience pain now, or I want to experience pleasure now. It's one of those two things, and that's a timeline thing. You don't really have a violation of values if, I mean, I don't think I could come up with an example of a time where somebody said, I'm going to stick, I'm going to grind, here's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to work 100 hours a week because I have a family, I have a dog, I have community. And you say, okay, cool. Then you can create whatever prosperity you want over a period of time. On the other hand, I have a different way that I've done it. And it's mostly been 100-hour weeks. Like, I work every day. Friday night for me is definitely not going out and partying. It's usually studying something with a Pellegrino like that. But that means that probably my timeline is compressed for a certain prosperity, if you will. It doesn't mean it's the right thing. I'm doing something different. My values are going to be different than somebody else's. They're not wrong. They're just different. And so if you say, look, my values are, I want to go to T-ball with my kids for practice every day. Got it. Don't expect to have some big financial event happen in a very short period of time, because you're choosing, and you're probably smarter than I am, because I don't have kids. I don't have T-ball. I don't have any of this stuff. So I think there's just a rational perspective on what exchange am I going to participate in. And that's where people get all twisted, because they go, I want it all. Man, you can have anything you want, but you can't have everything. And when I say everything, it's like everything on a certain timeline. And when people do that, that's where they violate values. They say, well, I want it all. Then they end up stealing it. Or they do something, it's like, well, I'm going to ignore all the people that get hurt. Or my righteousness. I've seen this a lot. People say, I'm entitled to this. And it's like, well, your values are twisted, man. And I've seen that where it's, people can convince themselves that they deserve something, and they'll go do things, make decisions, and they don't care who they hurt, because their moral conviction is so upside down. Their North Star is an illusion. So sometimes one of the answers I would suggest is you got to have people around you that you trust to tell you the truth, that will say, you're being a bozo. You are literally an idiot right now. And you go, okay. I ask my team and my employees, I ask my mentors and friends constantly, all of them, what am I missing? What are my blind spots? And sometimes I go, okay, I need to pivot. And sometimes I go, yeah, I'm going to keep doing that, because thinking about it consciously, I'm willing to keep doing that, even though you think I'm crazy. But I'm asking the question, and I don't see people in general asking the question. People generally are just like, I'm going to keep doing what I do because it feels good. And then they bitch about where they are in life. Well, you're making choices. Our lives are a reflection of these choices, these behaviors, these habits. And if you're unconscious to that, then you don't really have any right to be mad about where you are, because you're not willing to do anything and engage in making a different choice, or pivoting, or going off 2 degrees in the left or the right. That's where everything changes, when you get conscious and you say, okay, what's true, what's real? Like when I lost my 25 million in 2008 and was homeless, my solution to that was spending a year and a half with a therapist and asking one question. The question is, what is true? What's true is I was a douchebag. I was a hedonistic prick. And I look back and I'm like, man, and people have tried to convince me that wasn't true. And I'm like, I don't think you knew me as well as I knew me. I knew me pretty good. And man, I wouldn't want to be with that guy. And I needed to go deep into that space and get to the truth. And that's where everything changes, when you can acknowledge the truth. What are those blind spots? And is that really who you want to continue to be, or do you want to change? But most people aren't spending the time. And I think quite honestly, people are afraid of the truth. They don't want to get there. It's like, oh God, then I would know that I really don't want to be the same person. And then I got to do work. And then I'm wrong about what I've done in the past. Like, all that stuff comes up. So what's easier? Beer and wings.
Yeah, there's an old saying, all of man's discontent comes from his inability to sit in a room alone. That everything just comes down to having to know, like Sun Tzu, know yourself, know thyself. You have to be able to do that. And when you were talking, you were saying, like, if you don't have kids, you dedicate $100 a week, and somebody else who's chose a different path, doesn't mean that either one of you are right or wrong. There's not an objective truth on how to live your life the right way. But people will hear what you're living, and rather than saying like, oh, why don't I want to live that way? Is the way that I'm living okay? They're going to hear what you say and then take that as an affront to them. That you, by living your life, is somehow saying to them that they're living their life wrong, when they're just different. There's no way, shape, or form. And I don't know how to fix that. I don't know how to tell people that you just need to be rational and realize that we're all a collective here, and everyone's doing their own little piece of the pie. And you should be happy that there's somebody else who's living a different life than you.
Honestly, I think that the smartest thing to do in any situation is to hear that and to practice the gratitude. Wherever you are, whatever your life is, be grateful for the thing. and then ask yourself, do I want a different thing? Like I do this process with people called the MAP, the Millionaire Action Plan. And it's really saying, okay, you've got to become a millionaire physically and spiritually in this space. And when I say millionaire, and I talk about people being retired, it's really being retired and disconnecting from money. So I think that there's something very powerful about having a path and a plan to get to a place where you're not working for money, that you're not a slave, that it's like Forrest Gump said, he had all this money from his Apple stock. And he goes, yeah, it was great. It was just one less thing to think about or worry about. So that's a big part of my philosophy. How do we get there? How do I help other people get there? I work now to help people get there. I don't need to. The money thing is no longer a thing, and it's because I've spent so much time and energy to solve that problem. And you know what? And I decided that was what I was going to focus on instead of a family, instead of T-ball. And I look at that and I go, do I have regrets? Man, I have some thoughts about how much fun that would probably be. And I see people, but that's the path I chose. And I'm grateful for the path. I'm grateful for where I am. And I've had a lot of my clients pass away recently. It's sort of a weird thing. Like I'm seeing that and I go, okay, I'm grateful I'm alive today. I'm consciously aware that I'm alive. I think I am, unless I'm in the matrix, but I think that that's the truth. And so nobody that's listening to this or watching this should be in any way thinking, oh, well, I'm being told that I did the wrong thing. No, you did exactly the right thing for you at the time, based on the thinking at the time. And the question is, do you think that there's anything that you might want to change or have different? If you were looking out 10 years from now, do you want to have the next 10 years being the same as the last 10 years? And if there's anything different, cool. It requires the biggest thing, the biggest work is making that decision. The decision is where all the pain is. And then the work is just like logistics. And people go, oh man, this is going to be hard. I'm like, no, what's going to be hard is you choosing it. It's like getting a divorce, actually choosing it, making that decision. I've had a bunch of people in the last couple of years and I've watched them go through this, and man, they just kick the crap out of the can. They don't want to make the decision. It's like, this is going to hurt. I'm like, no, it's going to hurt to make the decision, but actually doing it, yeah, you're going to have stuff, but there's a freeing when you acknowledge the truth. Most of the time with divorce, you know the truth, but you don't want to acknowledge the truth. Man, you got a terrible relationship. It's toxic. It's bad for everybody. Sometimes you just have to acknowledge, hey, I got to divorce my old self. And I don't like that, because then what does that mean? Who am I? I don't know. Going deep into that space, though, you realize that you have this freedom and this blank this canvas. And it's incredibly cool to realize you can, unless you're in prison, like unless you're in El Salvador in one of those prisons that Bukele set up, you're kind of screwed. This is not the right conversation. But everybody else, you're not in that prison. I don't think they get to listen to your podcast on in prison. So let's just talk about reality. Reality is we are free to be able to make our own choices. We have free will, and that's so cool. Like and there's so many options and so many opportunities, and we literally defeat ourselves because of our thinking and the people that are around us that we allow to influence us. That's the biggest hack. What is your environment doing to you or for you or against you? And when you start asking that question, you go, maybe I need to pivot that a little bit and influence myself, and then use that as leverage. That's a really great thing for absolutely everybody that's paying attention to this.
Tell me more about your MAP program that you run with people. I know that you have a system, and I didn't know that you had that, but yours and mine sounds very similar. For me, as an entrepreneur, I am like you in that I try to help people. I coach people financially to get money out of the way so they can focus on what matters most. Because I see too many people in life, they put money as the end goal. They put money as that's the highest value. That's the highest order. And they shoot for that, only realizing that they're aiming for the wrong thing. They've worshiped the wrong God. So I try to teach people that, yes, money is important. Like you can't survive without it. Like it just is. And while I agree with that or disagree with that, I don't love it, but it is the way the system works. So don't rail against it. Just deal with the way that it works. So how do you control your money? What does your MAP program look like so that I can see how it kind of relates to myself and what our audience members can gain from it versus mine?
I think for the most part that what I've been thinking about over the years is thinking about how people get clear on reality, the reality of where you are and the reality of where you want to be, and then figuring out that gap. It's not, this is the same basic concept when you talk about financial planning or anything. It's just acknowledging truth. And so really the truth that I dig into with everybody is, okay, what are you actually doing with your money? Money is this energy. It's this thing that people do. They go and they spend all this time to get all this money, and then it goes right through them. And when you start thinking about, all right, what am I'm exchanging my life for this thing? Like you're giving up your life. People say, I would give up my life for my kids. I would sacrifice myself. Well, you're literally sacrificing yourself. And what are you sacrificing it for? A Louis Vuitton bag or, like whatever it is. So it's really getting clear on that. And once you start there, you're like, okay, here's where I am. And then I say, okay, cool. If you keep doing that, then here's where you're going to be in 10 years, probably about the same place. And people go, all right. And I said, do you want something different? And if they say yes, I'm like, okay, well then something has to change. And so this first step is really just becoming incredibly honest about what's true. That was the thing I went through for 2 years in therapy. What the heck is true? And it's hard to argue with your credit cards and your calendar and your cash. Like it is what it is. There is no gray area. Either you have cash there, you have a certain number, or you don't have any. And so that starting there and then opening the space for people, I hear, well, I can't do that. I'm like, well, have you ever given yourself a chance to think about it? And what they do is people tend to say, my future is based on what I've already done. And there's a certain exchange I have, and that limits them. And the problem is people way undershoot the long-term ability. And really what I'm doing is giving people permission to think like there is a path. You can be anywhere. You can be a high school dropout like I was, college dropout. I did high school barely. and you can go through that. You can be at zero or you can be negative. I don't know Donald Trump was $900 million negative at one point. I don't know if this works for that. Maybe it does. But most people, whether you're at zero or you got some credit card debt or whatever, there is a path over a 10-year period where you can go from where you are to 10 million. And that's a magic number. That's a number where you escape financial gravity, where if you can create that because you're creating a whole different framework of thinking around money and you're not beholden to it. So I have this path. 10 years is going to go by. Like I remember, we're here in 2025. I'm like, man, I remember 2015. I can think about this stuff. It's that recent. So we're going to end up in 2035. And my suggestion with MAP is you could have a 2035 where you're not thinking about money anymore. For most people, that seems like a cool idea that's impossible. And so MAP is really the empowerment behind having a plan. And then here's the work that you have to do. It's not about voting for somebody. It's not about getting an inheritance. It's about here's the plan and you can do it and you're responsible. And if it's going to be, it's up to me type of attitude. That's what's so cool about it. And there's different ways of doing it. Like with, the work that you do with people, it's about giving people that hope and the potential that they can do it. I don't think most people believe it's even possible. So they just keep kind of doing what they did last year, this year.
I would agree with that 100%. There's so many times I grew up in, lower middle class family, grew up around a lot of people. No one knew the report. We're all the same. Like everyone thought they were the same. And, looking back on that, you ask somebody, what's magic genie, get anything you want. Everyone said the same thing, $1 million. As if $1 million was it. But for them, $1 million might as well been $5 billion, might as well been the ability to fly. Like there was no ability to be able to understand that $1 million wasn't everything. What do you think about that?
So there's a couple of things that I always encourage everybody to do. And I'm really careful about what I say you should do, because I think people should all over themselves constantly when they're told they should. And I was like, okay, what should people do? You should get in the game, whatever the game is of life. It's like people that watch a movie and they go, man, I want to be a super whatever athlete. Or I used to love martial arts as a kid, and I was like, man, I want to be a ninja. And then I went and did it, and I spent 25 years studying martial arts and ended up with 4 black belts. And that took 20,000 hours of time. So most people don't. They're like, I want the thing, but I don't want to do the work. So what is that like? So how does that like connect to this? What I'm saying is you gotta take a step. Like you gotta show up to the dojo. You gotta show up. If we're talking about money, you gotta take a step. What does that mean for most people? I say go buy an ounce of silver. Go buy $10 of Tesla on Robinhood. Go get in the game of money so you start to understand it. If you're in the game, you'll start to appreciate it differently than if you just watch it on TV. When you just watch people on influencers, or you watch people on Instagram, whatever, you don't really understand it until there's a visceral experience with you participating in it. When you're a participant and it's like, man, you're dodging bullets and the markets are going crazy and like all these things, you're learning. That's how we learn. We don't learn memorizing rote details and facts is not really learning. Learning is understanding. Like the deep learning is really understanding. It's what differentiates humans from AI right now. We have a deep understanding and a connection to the kinesthetic experience of going through something, which bakes things into our DNA. So if you want to go from where you are to 10 million, you got to start to become that. You got to become the 10 million. How do you do that? You start to have the skills. How do you become a black belt? You can't just go, you can go buy a black belt, but you're not actually a black belt. You got to go and do the thing, take the hits, and start doing this practice. There's a practice of mastery with money or martial arts or business or t-ball or baseball or anything. And so there's these steps. Anybody can go buy a $35 ounce of silver. Anybody. You can be homeless and buy $10 of Tesla stock or anything else with Robinhood. Like there's no barrier to entry to getting in the game other than your psychology. And so you go, well, how does that equate to 10 million? That's the first step. What I see, Chris, is people going, I want 10 million, but they don't want to take that first step. They want to leap right to the end. And I go, man, you ever seen somebody do an Ironman? It is painful for 11 hours. And it's like one step after another, one stroke after another. And it's not, I'm starting and jumping to the end. Like there's this whole process. So it's really two things. And I would say that the second thing that I'm going to mention, in addition to those first initial steps, is you got to actually ask yourself who and what are the influences in my life? Because when I think about the people around me, I'm constantly asking, are these the right people around me, or do I need some different people? It doesn't mean you get rid of everybody. Maybe you do. Maybe you get rid of your friends, some people around you, because you're going to become them. It's like that whole osmosis. You become the 5 people around you. But the question is, if you want something different, if you want $10 million in your life, if you want that freedom, if you want to be really healthy, you got to stop hanging out with people that wake up and go eat donuts. Like that is not going to get you healthy, because you're going to be thinking, oh yeah, donuts is what we do. And it's the same thing with money. If the people around you are making decisions and they're at a certain level, you're going to most likely, it's going to be incredibly impossible. I would say impossible to go past gravitational, the gravity, the pull of gravity on your money. You are never going to escape that. The escape velocity is impossible until you go around people where it's normalized, meaning you go around people where they're either on their way clearly or they're already there. And then you start talking like them, you start acting like them. It'll be normal. Like we do what's normal. And there's a primal, sociologically, we tend to do and blend in with whatever's going on around us. We do it because we don't want to stick out. Because if you stick out, you die. You're eaten by something. That's how our primal brains function. So if you're around people that do certain things, why do people that make 10 or 20 or $100 million a year and all their friends make it, why do they keep doing it? Because it's normal. It's normal for them. They're doing the things their friends do. That's probably a clue. And if you just think about it, all right, what are they doing different than me? They don't have a bunch of broke friends to hang out with. And most people honestly do. And then they go, man, my life's not changing. It sucks. Well, you might want to think about who's influencing you, because you're basically maintaining a connection. So you're not too high or low outside of that norm, because you don't want to be ostracized. You don't want to be alone, because our primal, we have a thermostat on things. We try to keep it in a certain level. And if we go too far out of that, the heat or the cooling system kicks in, which is you lowering or raising your habits around your money. You kind of have to blow it apart and go around a different system, different, people that have different levels of temperature, because we do these things naturally. We do it unconsciously. You'll do the same thing at a $10 million level. So the choice that you can make, the hack, you buy that thing, you buy that little thing that anybody can do. You also can choose, am I listening to terrible NPR or Fox or things that are just making me scared, freaked out, and mad? Or are you listening to guys like you with opportunity and possibility and truth? Where, what are the influences? We get to choose that. And that is the ultimate hack. And we all get to choose which path we're going to go on, but we tend to do it by default.
Yeah. And I have to say that for most people in today's world, when you have your friends, you look at them, you're like, these aren't the best people to keep around me. And to look at that, maybe I have to excommunicate everybody. That's not what we're saying right now, but you can begin to create an ecosystem for you. And maybe you don't have that person physically within orbit of you, but I know when I was starting my journey, I didn't have those people. They weren't around me. I didn't know where to go or any of that. So I started looking to podcasts. I started reading books, started trying to watch any interview I could with wealthy people. And I made a community of friends. It was one directional. They were only talking with amongst themselves or the podcast or whatever. And I just happened to be a fly on the wall listening, but it began to give me that sense of a community, even though they have no idea who I am. And then eventually I created this community, something that's a little bit different, to create another thing so that I could be the thing that I needed 10 years ago. So you don't have to go through it alone. You may be alone, but you're not alone. There are people in this game with you. They may not know your name. They may not know your face, what you look like, but they believe in you. Just like I believe in Damion, Damion believes in me, and we believe in you, listener, that you can do it. And you have to believe that you can do it, because we can't do it for you.
There's a key there. the last thing you said, the belief, that is the biggest problem, biggest obstacle is we don't believe in it. We don't believe it's possible. We don't believe in ourselves. And I mean, this is true about like, I don't have a belief in my system that I'm a billionaire. I don't have a belief that I even know how to do that. How could I get there? And something deep down, if we're really honest, one of the exercises I take people through is this exercise where you have to go from $2 to $4 to $8. And in each level, the question is, what are you going to spend it on? And the answer is, I'm just going to give it away, and then I can go forever. I can go to 100 billion. That's the reason we force people to go through this exercise. Is you have to start thinking about these things, these different levels. What would you do when you get to 1 million and then 10 million and then 100 million? It forces you to ask different questions. Would I just buy a bunch more bags? Or because the universe is not going to cooperate with you if you think if Louis Vuitton bags is what you're going to do with $1 billion. It's going to say, nope, you're not worth the energy. And so forcing you to think about that kind of stuff, again, going back to being around people. I think about what value it would have been to have Damion 2025 back in 1995. I was like, man, what would that have been worth? I'm like, I would have maxed out every credit card I had with no money, being broke. I would have said, I will invest everything and I will bury myself to have that wisdom. And that was one of the mistakes, because I didn't believe in myself that I had the capability. I can tell you that everybody has more capability than they're tapping into. And so what I think that the great gift is to reach out to somebody, whether it's a mastermind or a mentor, and say, all right, you know what, I'm willing to do the work, and I'm looking for somebody that's going to believe in me more than I believe in myself. Not want it more than you want it, but believe in you. I look at people all the time and I go, man, I believe in you. And then yet, guess what? You get to leverage off of my belief in you, and you trust that, because I see it in you, and you go, you must know something. I'm like Nostradamus. I can see the future. I can see the future because I've done it. I trust it. It's part of my DNA. So I can see where somebody has the potential of going. And if they go, okay, I don't have any experience, but I'm going to trust Damion. Damion can see it. You know what? I know, because I've earned the ability to see it based on what I've already done. And that's wisdom. That's the difference between a mentor and a coach. Coaches can be awesome, but coaches generally don't have the experience that a mentor. Mentor is bald, burned, bleeding. It's a big old bitch of a life, man. You've earned your stripes. And having those people around you, you can leverage off of their belief in you. And that's where you can leapfrog past your own stair stepping. You can literally take 5 steps at a time instead of going, man, I'm going to get that one step. That's really long and painful. The mentor, the people that have been out there, the guys that you listen to on podcasts. I remember listening to Tony Robbins and Jim Rohn and all these guys. I was like, okay, I got to get some new people in my life. So I just buried myself in their tapes, and I burned those tapes, man. 25 years ago, I burned the tapes up, and it was awesome because that became my reality. And then I started acting. Sometimes I started talking like these guys. I think I started talking like Tony Robbins for a while. I was like, man, I need to stop this. This is ridiculous. But you just do. You adapt. You adopt. You become those things that you're around. And that was a beautiful thing. And we're surrounded by it. And it's free. You literally can just get buried in all this stuff, and it doesn't even cost you a dime. And then you say, okay, I'm ready to start investing, because we will pay attention to what we pay for. So when you want to go past just the information and learning, you say, okay, I'm putting my money down, because your money represents the energy. It represents you saying, if I'm serious about this, it's like I used to have a mentor that I paid $10,000 a month to, and I talked to him about half an hour a month. So most people are like, what? $10,000 for a half an hour? And I was like, yeah. And you know what? Every time I talked to him, it either made me or saved me hundreds of thousands or millions. And when I stopped listening to him, I lost 25 million. So do the math. Was it a good investment? Yes. Was it a terrible idea to say I'm not paying anymore? Yes. Even when I ran out of money, I should have still been paying him, because he had the wisdom. The dude's 30 years beyond me, 35 years. He's almost 80. And I was like, I don't need this guy anymore. And every time I've done that, I've made a mistake where I thought, oh, I got enough. We don't. We continually need to have people that have gone before us. And if we think that we're that smart, we're about to have a reckoning.
Yeah, I would agree with you. Damion, thank you so much for coming on the podcast, being so forthright with my audience here. And I just want to leave everyone with one thing that I think Damion hit on that's just so important. It just comes down to the belief that you can. There are a lot of things going wrong in the world, and you can sit there, you can watch Fox News, NPR, whatever, and cite out every single thing that's wrong. And the next question is, what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do to make your life a little bit better? You can't fix every world's problems, but you can fix your problems here today. And yes, there's a lot of things wrong, and all the information you need to fix it is in your phone. If you're listening to this podcast, you're in the top 1% of civilization in the entire world. You have every single piece of information at you, but you need to be the one to start. So Damion, before we head off, the podcast is yours. Please let anyone know where they can go to find you, learn more about you. And I do have one more question before we head off.
Everything that I've done is really consolidated into this one piece that I built. We were talking about this 10-year thing, and that's as much philosophy and spirituality as it is financial. It's this idea that there's some things that you can do and you should do to become disconnected from needing to work for money. And so my plan on that was it's my turnkey system. This is what I did to create 10 million, $100 million net worth. It's what I've personally done. And so I built this turnkey retirement system, and the system is literally just like 10 pages. So you can download it in 10 minutes. You're like, oh, it's the hardest thing is to simplify. That's what Einstein said. It's a way, if I had more time, I would have made this shorter. Like that's the idea. So what I did is I wrote this thing. It's 10 steps to 10 million in 10 years. Take you about 10 minutes. I like tens. I like exponential thinking. So I kind of bake it into everything I do. You can download that at turnkeyretirement.com. It's free. Take it, use what you like, throw away the rest. And that'll give you a sense of what it is in a consolidated way. So you don't have to invest more than 10 minutes of your life, but I guarantee you're going to pick up something that's going to be worth 1,000 times more than the moment that you spent pulling that nugget out of that thing. Just download it. Keep it simple. One place, one little document, read it, take what you like.
Perfect. I will put that into the show notes if you send me that link. And then the final question is that we are the Fi Guys. And what I found from talking with so many different people is financial independence means something completely different to everybody else, every individual. So Damion, what does financial independence mean to you? And more importantly, what is enough?
I think that there's the question of enough, and there's two different things: enough of the work we do, and enough money. And for me, there's never enough work that I do because I'm always going to be building, I'm always going to be creating, I'm always going to be connecting, and it's because I love it. Having moved past the point of more money is, look, more money can forever give you a bigger airplane or a bigger house. Like there's a never ending. So the question is, what do you actually love? And if you're trying to prove something, this idea of significance, one of the other basic human needs, then it's never going to be enough. That was me making $1 million, then 2, then 5, having Ferraris, then one Ferrari wasn't enough. I needed to have a Lamborghini because my insecurity, I wasn't comfortable in me being me. Now I'm not trying to impress anybody. I look like the brokest, like hobo. Most times I go out. It's just like, I'm not trying to impress anybody. And most people ignore me. And I'm like, all right, I think that's probably better. I'm not really excited about being, having paparazzi come after me. It's a little awkward. But what I would say is that we don't ever want to think that we're going to be done, because if we're done, we'll be dead. And I can tell you that that's a fact. It's reality. If you look at the Social Security data, the average male in America dies within 30 months of retiring from doing something. And when I say doing something, I'm talking about creating value to your community, building a business. Money is just a side effect of what you're doing in terms of building. So there's never enough creation. Like we're human beings. We're meant to be doing things. We're like, and when we say, I just want to sit on a beach, man, the universe is going to be done with you. You're going to be dead in large part. So I don't think there's ever enough of that. I think that one of the things that people can do, I generally beat on Dave Ramsey, but I think one of the things you can do is stop being beholden to banks and other things. Get yourself to a place where you're not chasing and trying to serve all these masters. Get rid of all that stuff. Get rid of your debt. Get rid of your house payment. Just narrow things down and simplify. The closer you can get to simplifying, the more space you open up to be able to create and contribute. And that's where all the joy is in life. Joy is not working harder to have a bigger house payment that you can pay every month. That's the opposite. And that's where most people tend to go, because they're chasing the next delusion that's shiny online. That's the disconnect. That's part of moving past the physical and financial into the spiritual and more of an emotional experience with life. And that's right. That, to me, that's wealth. It's where you are consciously showing up to do the things that where they're mission based, not necessarily fun all the time, but they're mission based. And when you're mission based, you stop thinking about money. You're just like, man, this is why I'm here. This is why God put me on this planet. And that's a different thing than just going and chasing dollars the rest of your life. As soon as you can get rid of that, the sooner the better.
This video podcast is sponsored by Monzon Wealth. The content in this podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be considered financial advice. We do not endorse specific products or services. Past performance does not guarantee future results. The opinions expressed are those of the host and guests, not the podcast sponsor.
It is crucial to consult with a qualified financial advisor or professional who can provide advice tailored to your specific needs before making any financial decisions, investments, or taking any other actions. If you are seeking specified help, you can reach out to Chris at monzonwealth.com.